Guys, it's PaizoCon! I missed it. All of it. Literally the entire weekend of PaizoCon. I completely missed it and did not get to watch a second of it, which kind of breaks my heart, but luckily, a lot of you out there got to take advantage and experience PaizoCon Online 2023. And one of you out there, one of you very, very special individuals really did me a solid. A fellow by the name of the Magic Sword made an 11-page document talking about every single announced change by Paizo regarding the Pathfinder 2e Remaster coming this October, November. So, thank you, Magic Sword. I am going to provide a link to their document and to all of their social media I can find in the description of this video, because without them, this video would be a lot clunkier and I would just have to be going off of word of mouth, because I wanted to cover all this stuff, but I wasn't able to go to the actual panel and take notes and everything. So thankfully, people like the Magic Sword are incredible for doing this. So thank you. Go check them out and show them some support. And if the camera angle and stuff changes occasionally, I'm sorry. I'm back 3D, nearly full-time. This whole video, you're gonna get to look at this face. I got a haircut. I'm not super happy with it. It's a little too short. We'll grow into it. But you get to look at this face the whole video. I'm up, I'm moving. I'm gonna try not to give you seasickness and actually stay in frame, because it's just really hard not to get excited when I'm up, I'm performing for you. I start going back and forth. And it makes everybody watching the video incredibly sick. With that being said, let's dive into this document. We're going to go through it top to bottom. There's also a shout out to Vest of Holding, who apparently also helped type things out as they were going over them on the panel. Because if you've ever seen a Paizo panel, whether online or in person, they move fast. They move pretty quickly. They cover this and that and the other thing. But these people really knocked out of the park with this. So let's jump in, because I have a time limit to get this done. So starting right off, we get the covers of GM Core and Player Core, and they look so pretty. Oh my gosh, they're showing off the revamped Pathfinder universe dragons, which are super cool. I don't know if they'll go on into more detail later, but Paizo has announced that they're getting rid of all of the dragons you know and love, I think, and replacing them with 8 brand new dragons, 2 for each element, each tradition of magic. 2 arcane dragons, 2 divine dragons, 2 primal dragons, and 2 occult dragons. Those will be the 8 dragons of Pathfinder. We can see 2 of them here. I think that's a diabolic dragon on the player core. I don't know the one on the GM core, but it looks rad. It looks like it was confirmed that one of the biggest reasons they're making the new books and remastering Pathfinder 2e in the first place is to get away from the OGL. After all the nonsense in January, they wanted to completely cut ties with Wizards in any possible way, which makes sense, and I don't blame them. We all assumed that was why they were doing the remaster anyway, so it's good to have them say, yeah, that's a big reason we're doing it. And specifically, they want to re-present things to people, which, like we've all been saying, worst part of Pathfinder is the rulebook. So if they can reorganize and re-present it to new players, that will make the onboarding process of the game that much easier. So we're moving into general book contents. These are just changes or adding or removal of existing features to the game. The biggest one that everybody knew going into this, the outright removal of alignment. You're no longer lawful good. You're no longer chaotic neutral. You're just your character. You are making your character's choices in the environment without thinking, does that match my neutral good alignment? You don't have to worry about that anymore. You're just your character. You have your moral code. They're now putting an emphasis on edicts and anathema, not just to your champions and your barbarians, but to your players. You know, this isn't an anathema that's going to strip your powers, but this is something your character does not believe in. Maybe your Animal Order Druid's anathema, beyond their actual class anathema, is industrialism. Maybe your character is just so anti-industrialism that you make it part of their personality, you know? This will lead to interesting ways to develop your character. I'm guessing we're getting a completely revamped character sheet with spots for this. So now, probably on the 3rd or 4th page of the sheet, instead of having alignment, you're just going to have anathemas, you know, beliefs, things you don't believe in. Let's make a character not put a stamp on you. Now, interestingly, the planes of existence are staying the same. So you're still going to have the plane of law and the plane of chaos and the plane of good and the plane of evil and all of that jazz. But I like this statement here. Think of alignments as writing prompts rather than a necessity of the plane. The plane exists that way because that's how the writers wrote it. They aren't good because they're the plane of good. This plane just happens to be good. Likewise for all the other planes. I think that's going to be really freeing for GMs. These planes, they don't follow these written rules. It just happens to be that way. And even if this is just a perspective change on the world of Golarion and Pathfinder at large, I think it's fantastic. Sometimes all you need is a change in perspective, not even a change to the rulings. Now, what's very interesting when it comes to your clerics out there is apparently something called sanctifying. You sanctify yourself as holy or unholy, and your character gains that trait, which allows you to cast spells with that trait. I think this is a really cool direction. Will give clerics that little bit of extra spice they need, even if they don't get a new subclass. Now, your character from level 1 isn't just going to determine, oh, I cast heal or I cast harm. No. Now it's, I have these divine spells or those divine spells, and by picking one, I lock myself out of the other ones, and hopefully there will be some ways to mix and match. Maybe a feat that allows you to add 1 or 2 spells with the opposite trait to your spellbook. If you're playing a really good person, you are a holy cleric, but you really want Create Undead to use it for good purposes. Maybe there's a feat down the line that lets you take an unholy spell, like I assume Create Undead, and add that to your repertoire even though you are a holy sanctified cleric. That would be rad. Additionally, there's a new type of damage known as spirit damage, which completely bypasses your physical form and attacks the very spirit inside of the target. It affects incorporeal creatures, so it's a great option against ghosts and stuff like that, but interestingly, you can even sanctify your spirit damage, making it holy spirit damage or unholy spirit damage, dealing bonus damage to the opposite one. If you're using holy spirit damage, it deals bonus damage against unholy targets, and vice versa. Very cool. This change, apparently, according to what they've written here, isn't going to affect the game much, but I'm curious what they're going to do with it. Because the recognizable schools of magic, illusion, evocation, abjuration, all of those are linked to the open gaming license, they are being removed from Pathfinder. There is no more illusion magic and evocation magic. There's just magic, which I guess thinking about it, the game doesn't really interact with the schools that much. Outside of the wizard and just the wizard, no class or game mechanic really cares about a specific school of magic outside of, I suppose, a few archetypes as well. There's the, I forget the name of the archetype, I'm sorry, this is off the top of my head, but it's the archetype that only uses illusion magic, that only gives you spells from the illusion school. I'm curious how they're going to fix those archetypes, like maybe just give them a spell list, but then that might get clunky when it comes to formatting and whatnot. I don't know. It's going to mess with a few minor things and then the wizard as a whole, but otherwise, from the standard at-the-table gameplay experience, I don't think we're going to see that much of a change. But you know what will give you a big change? Me switching into my sponsored advertiser voice with Persona music playing in the background. Yes, comments, I see you. This is Persona music. It's also been my ad music for like 2 years now. Have you tried G Fuel? Do it. That's the ad. No, but in all honesty, I have been dying without my G Fuel. If you don't know, I've moved recently, and we haven't been able to move our stuff up here yet. So, all of my G Fuel is back in my apartment. So I didn't have any G Fuel in this entire house, and I was a zombie. Until we went to our local Walmart, and I found G Fuel. It's even hype sauce, which is one of my top flavors. Yeah, check out G Fuel, y'all. There's a link in the description. You can also use my code NONAT, N-O-N-A-T, at checkout to get up to 30% off your order. I honestly swear by this stuff. I drink it constantly, which is why I was struggling without it, because it is my source of caffeine. It doesn't give me the crash that coffee and like Monster Energy does. Like G Fuel just kind of is like, yeah, you can exist for, here's 3 hours of existence. Go have fun and no penalty afterwards. I've gotten a few of my friends into it. They swear by it too, especially the hydration stuff. That's the one I miss the most, is the little hydration tubs. There's no caffeine. They don't like hype you up or anything. They're just really good flavoring for your water with some extra vitamins in there to help hydrate you even more effectively. Highly, highly, highly recommend G Fuel. If you want to try it out for the first time, but you don't want to get too deep into it, you don't want to buy a giant 40-serving tub, they have starter kits. These are like $10 to $15 starter kits that come with a free cup shaker, as well as a few of these, the flavor packets, the G Fuel packets, right with your shaker. You can try them out. If you don't like them, you still have a cup, not a bad deal. So click my link in the description, check out G Fuel, and G Fuel reps, if you're out there listening and watching me, thank you for understanding my whole situation. I just want to hype up G Fuel for a quick 10 seconds. They have not come at me over the last 3 or 4 months while my back has been injured and while I've been dealing with family crises and stuff. They have just been like, yep, here's your contract, renew it, you're good, we love you, mwah, kisses. And to that, I say thank you. G Fuel has been one of the best sponsors I've had the honor of working with as far as understanding my schedule and adapting, or rather not even needing to adapt to me. So thank you, G Fuel. I appreciate that and respect the hell out of you and your product. Anyway, I'm gonna go drink some real quick. Let's talk player core, starting with new ancestries. And by new, I just mean a sort of reorganization of ancestries. Orc and Leshy are being added as core ancestries in Player Core 1. Paizo really said, hey, that Strawberry Dragon Monk? That should be a base core rule option, and I respect the hell out of that. I love it, especially full-blooded orcs. Like, that should be core, I agree. And Leshy, I think, just screams that freedom of Pathfinder that they're so proud of, so I think that is also a great choice for Player Core 1. Also, because of the OGL, we are losing the terms Aasimar and Tiefling. They are being completely struck from the Pathfinder lexicon and replaced by one entity, the Nephilim. The Nephilim sounds like it is specifically a celestial versatile heritage, and that does not just mean angelic. Celestial is just anything from those outer planes, so we might even see, I don't know if we're going to see like chaotic and lawful, or if this is still just good and evil like angels and demons, because I don't know if that would step on Gonzi and Aphorite at all, like anyone's really playing Aphorites. Sorry, Aphorite players. But I think this could open up some really cool options for a really deep versatile heritage that players can customize within itself, allowing you to make an angelkin or a demonkin or maybe even a devilkin, which is kind of different. There's a lot of fun to be had there. I'm excited to see what the Nephilim really entails. They're also adding changelings. Remember, this is all going to be in Player Core 1. Nephilim and changelings are both base material. They're not making versatile heritages an advanced concept anymore. They're saying, you want to play, an angelkin? Here you go, right in the base core rulebook. It sounds like they are putting a ton of options right into this first book. Next up are the 8 playable classes in Player Core 1, which I'm just going to look over and sum up for you real quick. Each of them getting a little bit of a change, some more than others. The big change is that the Witch is being added in Player Core 1. I think this is just Paizo saying, hey, we're really excited about the entire reworked Witch, because Witch is getting the most updates out of any class. We're putting it in the first of the new books because we want it in your hands. This is a fix we want to get out there, so we're doing it as early as possible. Otherwise, it's mostly the same classes, with the exception of Barbarian, which is not going to be coming out until Player Core 2. We'll start alphabetically with the Bard. They didn't go into much detail on the Bard. It looks like they're trying to expand the subclasses a bit, which, thank you. They should be more than just a feat and a spell in your repertoire. Muses are going to get a little bit more in-depth, apparently with more role-playing hooks, they say, which I can understand that. There's only 3 or 4 types of muses, so I don't know if more options or just deeper description of those options would be helpful. But also, they say the warrior muse got something. We don't know what, because all bards are now proficient in martial weapons. You can have your short bow bards. You can have your great sword bards. You can do a lot more with the bard with that increased weapon proficiency. That used to be the warrior muse's whole thing, is proficiency in martial weapons. So, what do they get? Increased proficiency scaling. Come on. Come on, give me that level 7 expert, like level 13 master, get them just behind the marshals, Because as it stands, they only go up at, I think, level 9 right now? 11! Right now, the bard doesn't hit expert proficiency until level 11. Give them that level 7 accuracy bump. Give them the alchemist accuracy. Please. The Cleric. Apparently lots of changes to the Cleric, which we talked about some of them with the sanctifying, the holy and unholy damages, but because of how important alignment was to the Cleric and that being stripped from the game, there's a lot to talk about. Apparently they mostly talked about the War Priest, because the War Priest is the thing that everybody looks at and goes, you're the worst class in the game. In reality, it's not a terrible class, they have access to some good buffs, but when you look at it in a vacuum, the War Priest is not that exciting. So, what they're granting them is a proficiency bump in their deity's favored weapon, along with expert proficiency in all martial weapons. So you can now get that weapon proficiency up to master on par with other martials, thank goodness, and now your greatsword cleric, your longbow cleric, all of them can really start to function a little bit better with that proficiency bump. And they're adding feats to support War Priest specifically, and playing with Cleric feats as a whole. They address one of the common complaints was, why play a War Priest when I can play a Cloistered Cleric with the Sentinel archetype, which is absolutely fair. And so they've added a War Priest exclusive feat to the Cleric that lets them wear heavy armor. No need to take an archetype or just waste that dedication just to get heavy armor. You can now take a Cleric feat and wear it yourself. Additionally, they said there's a focus on the War Priest feats being really fun in melee combat. So it sounds like we're going to get much more of an upfront focused Cleric than the current War Priest, which is much more sort of mid-range, can fight if they need to, but overall hangs back, whereas the new one might have the tools to survive up close and personal and also dish out some damage. Druids aren't getting a whole lot of touches. Like I said in my video, I think they're in a great place. It sounds like Paizo agrees, although the Druidic language has been renamed to Wild Song, and I think that's gorgeous. It sounds like they're going to give Druids some kind of sorcerer-type blood magic, except for their order, to sort of, again, customize and make each order feel a little bit more unique compared to the others. They said examples of this are going to be like the Thunder Order Druid might be able to automatically put out a clap of thunder whenever they cast a spell, or leave snow on the ground kind of thing. These really minor effects that, even if they don't change the flow of battle, they give you that mechanical representation that differentiates you from other classes of your type, which Druid was already amazing at. This will just make them even better. There's going to be no metal anathema for any of the Druidic orders, and they're making it easier to talk to non-humanoids, namely plants and, I assume, animals, because that is such an integral part to a lot of Druidic fantasy that they want players to be able to do that. I don't know if this is going to be right at level 1, or maybe something passively as a class feature you get at like 3rd or 5th level. I think that would be really cool if Druids could just inherently talk to specific things, maybe based on your order. Maybe the wild animal order can talk to animals, and then the plant and whatever the other one is that's based on forests and doesn't give you a leshy, that one talks to animals, and maybe the elemental ones let you speak elemental. I don't know. Could be a lot of fun. I like that Druids are getting language integration into their mechanics. I think that is underestimated. I think that's something that should have been done a long time ago that not a lot of people thought about. Well done, Paizo. Moving on to fighters, my favorite class. The open trait is gone. They are removing the trait from the game. If you're unaware, open meant this action needs to be the first thing you do on your turn. If you take a step action beforehand, nope, you cannot use your opener anymore. Which, with regards to Pathfinder 2e's combat system, was really limiting. There is benefit to attacking and then getting distance between you and your target, which means if you're a fighter and your GM has smart enemies that are doing that, your opener never happens. Okay, I don't know. Swear to God. Swear to Sarenrae above. If this is a quote from the panel, I'm gonna punch Eric Mona in the face. They said, the fighter was doing its job well. Overall, we knew better than to mess with perfection. Which, A, you're right, the fighter's perfect. It fights things and crits things and destroys the game by itself. But also, B, that feels like a personal attack. Like, I feel like they know how I feel about fighters. And they decided to, of all the classes in the game, they call the fighter perfect. I see you, Eric. I see you. Ranger's gotten a few changes that Overall, I like them. The first one, it just is just me being a grumbly old man. They are taking all of the magical ranger warden stuff and making that part of the core class. I think it's still optional to take these feats, so you can still not play a magical ranger, which I always will, because I just love the martial ranger. So they've just added those into the core book. That is nothing. That's not a bad change. It's just me going, I like my martial ranger. They're also polishing a lot of feats, and I think this goes for all the classes, not just the ranger, that one of their main focuses with this remaster is to remove feat taxes. They're nowhere near as prevalent as they were in Pathfinder 1st Edition, but the example they give is crossbow ace. If you are playing a ranger who uses a crossbow, if you don't take crossbow ace, you're just missing out. So they want them to feel optional. They want them to feel like, ooh, I want to take this feat, not I need to take this feat. Additionally, they're adding a martial crossbow. Like, honestly, finally. We're getting an arbalest, like a full-on, massive handheld crossbow arbalest for martial characters. Thank you! Thank you! I love arbalests. I love massive-ass crossbows for my character to use. Even if they're like a 2-action reload clunker, give me that giant ballista in my hands and let me make a character around it. They're also removing dependency on hunt prey. Obviously, it's still going to be an integral part of the class. That's their whole core concept, but I think they're going to take the hunted prey requirement off of quite a few feats to make the ranger feel a little more flexible in combat rather than just a boss killer, which that's fair. You know, sometimes the ranger is the king of single target combat, so as long as they don't lose that, I'm okay with it. Oh my god, the rogue. Oh my god, the rogue. Can we talk about this? The rogue has almost no changes but one. One massive change. All rogues are trained in martial weapons. All martial weapons. Now, does this mean they can sneak attack with those martial weapons? I don't know. It doesn't say that here. But if they can, if you can sneak up on someone with, like, what's a ridiculous agile or finesse martial weapon? Okay, I couldn't find any weapons that were funny enough for this joke, and I'm on a time limit. But I feel like there's going to be some really funky rogue builds out there sneak attacking with some weird freaking weapons. And honestly, I'm all for it. This is going to be a crazy damage, I guess not a crazy damage spike for rogues. For most rogues, it's probably going to mean a 1 or 2 damage die upgrade. Do they need it? Will they need it? I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what changes they get. Apparently also Scoundrel and Ruffian are getting some new stuff, which I think is desperately needed. I think most people who play rogues in the core rulebook just play a thief for that tasty dexterity to damage, and who can blame them? So giving the Ruffian and the Scoundrel more of a reason to be picked sounds good in my book. Interestingly, right here it says that the Witch got one of the largest reworks, which means maybe in Player Core 2, we're going to see a different class get kind of overhauled. I have no idea which one that could be, honestly. According to this, they have dialed the flavor of the witch all the way up. What does that mean? I have no idea. I haven't read more yet. Let's. The patrons are more specific, okay. They're renaming a few things. The curse patron is now just called the Resentment. Ooh, so they're not just like theme patron anymore. They're freaking named. We're getting named patrons like the Resentment and the Silence and the Snow. Yo, I am here for this. I don't know if this still gives GMs freedom to decide what that is. You know, what is the Resentment? That's up to the GM, similar to how it was before. But I like this. I like this a lot. I think this also differentiates Witch from D&D's Warlock even more. You know, the Warlock has the packs and your patrons, but again, they're sort of themed, you know, Patron of the Deep or whatever. Whereas this, if they're named, that's freaking rad. Apparently, they also wanted to take the restraints off the Witch. Are we Rock Lee now? Are we taking off our weighted gauntlets and we going to town on Gara? Because I'm here for it. Let's go, Witch. Your patron now gives your familiar a special ability. Let's go! Yes! Yes! Use the familiar. That's what the witch is. The witch is the familiar. Make them get familiar things that other people just can't. This is what I'm talking about. So the Silence and Snow patron might let your familiar freeze the ground around it. The Patron's Puppet spell is a focus spell where you can use a free action to let your patron order your familiar. So you're like, I don't get to choose what you do, but homie, don't let me down. That's so cool. Patron's presence makes it harder for your foes to cast spell. Yes, do more with the patron. Less about the witch just throwing magic around like a wizard, more about the entity giving them that power. Yes, I'm so here for it. It says still only 1 hex per turn, but the hexes are stronger, which I think is fine. A lot of them were really cool concepts. Clinging ice is something I've seen multiple times. People try to use it, but overall, it's always like, oh, you do 1 persistent cold damage. Good job. We love you. They're bundling together the magic hair and magic nails into one package, so you don't need to, spend multiple feats to get each one, which, fair, those were almost never worth it to begin with. They're giving flying broom support. Yes! You can turn any pole arm into a flying broom and ride that. I love it. There's a feat where your patron uses your familiar as a portal to reach out and grab your enemy's soul. I'm so pumped for Witch. That is the first time I've ever said that. I'm so excited for Witch. Holy cow. And finally, Wizards. I need to wrap this up actually right now because I'm almost out of time. But Wizards. With the removal of spell schools, Wizards now have a much more literal school. Where they learned magic. So these are bard colleges from 5e, which make a lot more sense for Wizards, honestly. So you went to one of 4, maybe more schools in the full release. The School of Battle Magic, the School of Civic Wizardry, the School of Protean Form, the School of Unified Magical Theory. Oh! Paizo! You're making me scream! In a good way. This is all really good. I know I'm really flush because I'm really, really excited, and it's also really freaking hot in here. It is 80 degrees in my house. What can we get here? Battle Magic is Fireball, Earthbind, military wizard. Yeah, okay, these are pretty self-explanatory. Battle Magic gives you battle magic. Civic Wizardry gives you stuff like forming spells, creating constructs to help aid society and stuff like that. Or pound your opponents into the ground, whichever. Protean Form is about manipulating biology, like Polymorph or Gouging Claw. Unified Magical Theory, obviously that's the Universalist. It's perfectly named. Oh my god, I'm so excited. Oh my god, Paizo, I'm so excited. I love Wizards. This is what I needed. This also leaves the door open to add new wizard subclasses that reflect specific parts of the setting. Oh my god, what a genius design! So now they can just make the Ustalav School of Magic. That's the example they give here. Ustalav having spiritual and electric magic specifically as their focus. Oh my god! This is so cool! Damn! Certain things like the Magus's Spell Strike might be errata to accommodate this, and certain feats have now been errata like Dispel Weapon. Oh my gosh. And the final thing the wizard gets, I cannot believe they did this. Wizards get Martial Weapon proficiency. I'm just going to let that sink in. This is the end of part 1. There's going to be a part 2 later this week, but this was all the class stuff. There's so much more. We're not even halfway through this document, but just for my time, this is all I have. But I hope this scratches the itch. You guys got to see the cool class stuff. Next time we'll go over everything else. Holy crap, this is so cool. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll see you later this week for part 2. And until next time, no nat ones. Damn, it feels good to do that again.